Okay, the way I'm going to present this review to you, I'm going to take sections, chunks, and explain it to the maximum. The maximum meaning, up to what you can expect on a test, and no more than that. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is cell styles. If you're on your home tab and you look over here in your styles group and you see your cell styles, remember if you click on the arrow, that will open up an entire gallery of different styles. So on your test, expect that you probably more than likely are going to apply a title style to your title. Or you're going to apply maybe a heading 1 or heading 2, maybe to a subtitle, or possibly, remember these are column titles then that identify what's below in this column. And these right here, these names, they identify what's occurring in that row. So, again, up here, more than likely, you'll have a title style that's applied, and when you read your instructions, it'll be apply the title cell style. Heading 1, heading 2, one of these two you'll probably use, and I do believe we're not going to use these shades, but you need to be familiar with these two command buttons here. This command button is fill. So I do believe you're going to use this fill color. It's going to ask you to select a cell or a range, I forget which, but once it's selected, then you're going to apply some type of fill, and you can see what it does. It fills the background. It fills those cells with that color that's selected. And then also, more than likely, it might ask you to change the font color. So whatever color you apply, you'll see the change that occurs. And again, you have to highlight, and it'll either tell you to select a range, or it might ask you to just click on a particular cell. So the formatting that's going to be applied in terms of cell styles is all right here in this gallery. The other things that will occur is using your bold button right here. So the bold button, that's just going to make things darker, applies more emphasis. You can see that these are our grid lines, but you can see these black lines are border lines. You're going to be directed to select a range and then go over here to your borders, and this is your entire drop-down list of all the different borders. Just read your set of instructions and it'll tell you which one to select. The next thing in terms of formatting, this wrap text, it's going to ask you to select a particular cell and wrap the text. What wrap text does, and you can see here's a preview, instead of it running over to the right, it will return on the line based on its column width. So it'll wrap that title. So you, somewhere in your exam, it's going to ask you to select a particular cell and then turn this feature on, so it'll wrap. Another thing that you'll be doing when you are formatting is formatting your numbers. So the formatting that you'll use for your numbers, well, we know this one here, if you use your screen tip, this is a counting number style. But over here in our drop-down list, we also use our currency style. So expect to select certain numbers, reading your set of instructions, and it's going to ask you to apply counting, and at one point you may be applying currency style. But even notice the counting's right here too. If you didn't use the shortcut button, it's still in the drop-down list. I'm not sure, but I do believe with your dates, it's going to ask you to apply the short date style. Let's see what else. If it asks you for a counting style with 0 digits to the right of the decimal, remember these are your increase and decrease decimals. Command buttons. This right here is conditional formatting. This will be on the exam, and let me explain to you how this works. So it's going to ask you to select a particular range, and then you just read your set of instructions, and you are going to use the top 10 in this particular exam. So you're going to select a range. Once your range is selected, you're going to go over here and select something from the sub menu. And once you have this up and running, just make sure you pay attention to what formatting style they want you to apply, and then you select OK. So that right there was using the top 10. I went into the top bottom rules and we selected the top 10. So it highlighted with that color based on the top 10 within that range, and that's called conditional formatting. That will be on the exam. Now we've been used to, with our titles, we've been selecting a range and going over here and open up the dialog box. However, on your exam, we're going to learn how to merge and center. So merge and center, you can only do one row at a time. You select the range and then you turn the button on. And what this does, it makes it one long active cell. Now you can turn it back off if you have the incorrect range, and then you just reselect that range again and turn the button on. So this is merge and center. So this is the command button we're going to be using on our exam for formatting. Lastly, about formatting, I want to talk about is either increasing or decreasing your column width or row height. Remember that all our commands, you need to let the system know what column by highlighting it. And then over here, we have either change our column width or auto fit, and here also for the rows. But just know that, remember, if you watch my mouse pointer and how if it hovers over the border in between the A and B, you can see how the mouse pointer, it changes, and once it does that, you can use the click and drag method too, and watch the numbers. Now, the other thing that you can use, if you double click, that's considered auto fit the column width. Okay, now I want to talk to you about these worksheets below, and I'm sorry I'm speeding through this because I only have 15 minutes of recording time, but just feel free to pause, make notes, play it, rewind it, fast forward, whatever you choose to do. Alright, so next I want to talk to you about worksheets. Now the worksheets are down here below, and below we have, on this particular one, this is our Project 3.3. We have revenue by department, promo departments, and Atlantic revenue. Whenever you read your set of instructions, it will refer to it as a worksheet or a sheet. So you need to pay attention by right-clicking over top of that particular sheet, and here are all the commands. Whether you're inserting, deleting, renaming it, move or copy, please don't ever just highlight something and then select copy and then add a sheet and then select paste. That's not move or copy. Move or copy, and let me delete this one out. Move or copy, you actually have to select move or copy and then select where you're going to move it to and create a copy. Now, I know on your exam it's going to ask you to open up a second file name, so you're going to be taking it from the resource file, and I'll have everybody download that before we begin our exam. So there will be a resource file and you'll be taking it to your Excel exam, so that's where you would select the Excel exam from your drop down list, so you can select it, input it into another file. So that's the only thing that's different that we haven't done yet. We're used to just going ahead and copying it within the same file, but here we're going to have to select a different file. And you can see this is 4424 and 33 because these are the three I actually have open right now. So that's why all those are populating, because you can see I have 3 of them open right now because I am going to go through these. So back to that, right click, you will be changing a tab color. Make sure you pause and read the screen tip to make sure you have the correct one. Here's the color, the first one, but when you go below, that starts going into the color and a percentage. So just pay attention to your commands, whatever you're going to use. I know you're going to copy and move. If you're going to move stuff around, you're going to use a click and drag approach. This helps you reorder your worksheets, and at the end of the exam, I'll let you know, you should have like I think there's like 6 or 7 worksheets, and I have it written out as to, so you can track to make sure you have them all in the correct order. Okay, now let's move on to some formulas and functions. Okay, you're not going to have everything that you've done in your homework on this exam. These are the functions that will be on the exam. The sum, so let me bring it in this drop-down list. You will be expected to use the sum, the average, the max, and the min function. And then also, we're going to work with the if and VLOOKUP. So let me give you an example. So let's go back to this chapter 3, and let me bring up this spreadsheet. So I started typing it out over here so I can show you how to use those functions. So what we're going to do, we're going to determine with all these sales right here for all the locations for the different products, we want to scan through and find out what the average number is. But typically we've learned previously that whenever you get your function up and running, it starts looking for a range. Now that range is not correct. I'm going to use a click and drag approach to override it, and you can see that our beginning cell, oops, I'm sorry, our beginning cell over here, it's kind of hard to see. I got it crammed. I got it, there you go. So you can see here, it's picking the beginning cell, colon, everything in between, and the ending cell. But on your exam, you're not going to use that. You're going to use a named range. So you're going to, a few times, you're going to have to name ranges. Remember, when you're naming a range, you're going to select the range itself. So I'm going to select this, and I'm going to go up here in this name box, and I'm going to name that. And I'll just name it as range, just like that. And you see how I type it out. Remember to press enter, so we'll accept that change. Once I press that, now range has been defined, and if I go over here and I select average, now I don't need to, hold on, let me blow that up a little bit more. Okay, now when I'm over here and I select average, I'm on my home tab, here's my shortcut button. I'm going to go ahead and look for, start typing RAN, and you can see it's right here, the yellow tag, the one I just named, that named range. So I press enter, and there you go. It brings back my value that's not formatted. So let me just highlight these, and I'll select currency. That way it's formatted, and then I'm just going to go ahead and round them up. There you go. Right now, let me show you how to use the maximum. You click on this, and you click on max. That's not L6, it's not the range. The range is, and I'm going to backspace this out and start typing range. I'm sorry, that's how I named it. You can see the yellow tag, double click. And so we have a named range. We're not actually putting the beginning and ending cell, we're using a named range. And that will be on the test. So once I name it, I just use it in all three of these functions. And I'm just going to type out range again. Here it is, my yellow tag, double click, and press enter. And there's all my values. Now I might not have enough time to finish the rest of the review, so I'm just going to stop it right here now, because that way I can finish talking about the other functions, which is if and VLOOKUP. I need to talk to you about pivot tables, sorting, filtering, information, and simple formulas. So just going to save this, and please watch part 2 to resume with the review.